Welcome to our midweek motivational Devo. So, as you know, we kind of recap a little bit about what we learned about on Sunday with Pastor Sean. There was a lot to grasp, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I grasped. So, he was basing the scripture of Luke on Luke chapter 4, and I'm going to read 16 through 21st. It says, he went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom to the prisoners and recovery of the sight for the blind, to set the oppressive free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." And Pastor Sean was sharing how we were set also, like this was obviously Jesus, being the one that's going to get the captives free. And he was kind of pointing it back to us. How do we apply this in our lives as well? How do we go about to apply setting the captives free? And I remember one of the examples he gave us was when he just stopped in the gas station and he just talked to the person right across from them and said, "Hey, that like just trying to start a conversation, not to put them down with the Bible or anything. It was just basically like, this year has been really rough, and then he just kind of went into, what has helped me was, just I found this church, and he was just able to open up in that way, rather than just being like, you want to come to church, but in a way of how to set the captives free in a way where you listen and you listen to how they're coming across, and encourage me to be able to listen to people that I've been able to just listen to their story and know where they're coming from, to build that relationship, to build that friendship. Now, yes, I know in a gas station or maybe like the waitress, it's kind of hard to build a relationship unless you go there often, right? And you see the same people. But, or even like your neighbor that you see them a lot, and hopefully you're talking to them, waving at them hi, and just kind of, establishing a relationship, maybe even inviting them over to dinner. But when you start building that relationship, that's how we set captives free. Because if you realize even just Jesus' ministry was all about relationship. What did they always do? They break bread together. And that's one thing that my husband and I have been talking a little bit more about, like how do we get to know more people, inviting people to our home. Now, I know that it's a little bit, some people are like, well, I don't know about that, and right now, after coming across for so much of being inside my home, I'm like, no, I want to open it up. Like, I think we're more comfortable opening it up and inviting people over. And we just want to break bread, and maybe God's calling us to do that, to set captives free, whether believers or non-believers, to be able to welcome people and welcome them into our home. And if you're not comfortable, that is okay. But just even if it's just a text, to be able to build that relationship so that we can have that place where people can open up to you and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going through this. How can you help me?" Or just opening up and just being a listening ear, but being able to set the captives. He says he has sent me to proclaim freedom to the prisoners. And sometimes people are living prisoners in their own home, and you can be the answer to that, where God can use you. So maybe today, or even throughout the week, we can just be mindful of that and saying, "God, how can you use me as a vessel to set somebody free on their captivity of what they're going through this time of COVID and all the stuff, what are they going through? How can I help them?" So I encourage you, just keep looking for those opportunities that God has given you. Just like Pastor Sean was saying, maybe it's just going, talking to the person right across when you're pumping out your gas, just seeing, "Hey, how are you doing?" And just a simple thing of really, how are you doing? Not just, "Yeah, I'm good, okay, whatever." No, but how are you really doing? Because sometimes that's all a person needs to be able to open up. So let's look for those opportunities to just be Jesus' hands and feet, okay? All right, have a wonderful